Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Beeson and welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be doing another bake with me, but because it is November, we are going to be keeping to the season of fall with two recipes that are a little bit more fall themed or fall in nature. I am very excited for these recipes, some of my favorite easy things to do when it comes to fall. So we will be doing a pumpkin cupcake with a caramel cream cheese frosting, which is honestly one of my favorite pumpkin cupcake things that I've had or I've made, so I'm very excited about these. And then we will be doing a very simple apple crisp. Can't go wrong with some apples, cinnamon, sugar, nice and warm with some ice cream. So both recipes super good, I'm very excited for. And I will have the recipes, the original recipes, linked in the description below if you would like to try them out as well. But I think we are good with the intro, so let's just go ahead and get right into the baking, and we will start off with the cupcakes. Alright, so for the pumpkin cupcakes, we're going to start with the dry ingredients first, of course, and all we want to do is just get those into a bowl and kind of mix together. So I have flour, and what we're going to be adding to the flour is going to be some cinnamon, some ginger, some nutmeg, cloves, some salt, and then baking powder and baking soda. So to the flour, cinnamon, and all the measurements will be in the description somewhere or just attached to the original recipe. And then some ginger, nutmeg, cloves, just regular salt, and then this is both baking powder and baking soda. So we just want to get this all whisked together and combined. And I will mention the measurements and everything that I'm doing for this recipe is actually doubled the original recipe. Last time I made them, I had a bunch of extra frosting, so I want to use up all the frosting, so I'm just doubling the cake batter itself, not the caramel or the frosting that we will make a little later. All right. So we will just set this aside and then move on to the wet ingredients for the cupcakes. All right, so for the wet ingredients, there's a little bit more of a step to this. So we have our bigger bowl, and we're going to start with adding our white sugar. And then our brown sugar. This is light brown sugar, but the recipe says you can use either light or brown, but I generally use light brown sugar. So we'll get that in there. And then we're gonna take our oil and add this in. Our vanilla, and then our eggs, and then we are just going to take a whisk for everything in this recipe and just combine this all until there are no lumps in any of this mixture. All right, and now we're going to take our pumpkin and just get this combined into this mixture. you want to mix the pumpkin in until it's nice and smooth. And then all we have left to add to the batter is going to be all of the dry ingredients and then some milk. But we're going to start with putting half of this flour mixture into the bowl, mix it a little bit, and then we'll add the milk, and then we'll add the rest of the flour into the pumpkin mixture. Okay, now all of the milk. And then the last of the flour mixture. And you just want to make sure that there are no lumps with the flour being combined in. All right, there is our batter. And so we just want to get it into the cupcake tins now, and we're going to want to fill the cupcake tins. Each cupcake should be between 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full, and then we'll get them into the oven. All right, we've got 2 trays so far. I do have a little bit of batter in the bowl, so we'll do another tray of however many cupcakes after, but I'm going to get these 2 trays into the oven, which is going to be at a 350 temperature, and the cook time on the recipe is like 18 to 20 minutes, but the last time I made them in my ovens, it was only like 17 minutes. So I'm gonna put them in for 17 minutes, and then we'll check them, pull them out, get them starting to cool, and we'll do another tray and get those into the oven, get them baking, and then get them all cooled. All right, so cupcakes are done and out of the oven and now fully cooling. I've got all of them sitting there. So we're gonna be moving on to the caramel for the frosting. So all of this will be taking place on this stove, but I want to explain it here quickly. So we're just gonna take like a medium-sized saucepan, and for the caramel all we're gonna need is some regular granulated sugar and then some unsalted butter, heavy whipping cream, and then some sea salt, since this is a salted caramel. And we're just gonna start by melting the sugar down completely until it's like an amber color. It's gonna be more of like a deeper amber color, but we're looking for like an amber color. And then once that's fully done, there's no lumps or anything like that, then the butter will get mixed into it. And then we want that to be mixed in well. It'll bubble, so it might be hot. And then once the butter is all melted in and fully incorporated, we're gonna drop the temperature down from like a medium heat to a low heat, and then add the heavy whipping cream, get that fully incorporated, and we want it to be smooth and even in color. And then we'll take it off the heat, mix in the salt, and then we'll just let it sit until it's fully cooled before we can actually put it into the frosting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and switch the camera over there, get everything going, and we'll just go ahead and make the caramel. Alright, caramel is done. Now we need to wait for this to fully cool before we can start to do the frosting. So while this is in its final stages of just getting completely cool and ready, we are going to move on to the apple crisp. All right, so moving into the apple crisp, obviously the main thing that we're gonna be needing are apples. I have 5 Granny Smiths already washed and ready to be prepared. They will be essentially most of the dessert. And then to the apples, we'll be adding brown sugar, some cinnamon, some vanilla, and then some cornstarch. And then for the topping, since this is a crisp, not like a crumble or anything that's got some more of like a batter to it, we'll just be putting some butter, which I've already got melted and kind of cooling right now. Salted butter with some brown sugar, granulated sugar, and a little bit of flour. So what we're gonna do is we're going to just start off with getting the apples fully peeled and then cut and then sliced into just more manageable slices of apples so that it can fit into the little container that we're going to be putting all of the apples into to go into the oven. So let's get started on the cutting. So we'll take an apple and then I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the peel and the skin. And then we'll take core, get the core out in the middle. And then you're just gonna wanna get them a little bit more cleaned, and then you're just gonna wanna start to cut them a little bit smaller. So you can like 1 slice, 2 slice, and just try and get some slices out of each slice from the core. That's it. And then we'll stick it into this big bowl. We'll just start adding it, and if I need to, I'll add a little bit of lemon juice just to help with the browning. And then once it's all cut, we'll start to add in all the rest of the ingredients. All right, 5 apples cut. So now we're just gonna go ahead and add like the mixture that goes in with the apples. So we'll start with brown sugar. Get that. And then cinnamon. And then this is cornstarch. just gonna wanna mix this all together until the apples are all nice and coated. Alright, all coated. I'm gonna set this bowl aside and bring in another one so we can do the topping and then we'll assemble all of it. So, keep the apples there. Need another bowl. And then we've got more brown sugar and then some granulated sugar to go along with our salted melted butter. And then some flour. So we're going to start with our brown sugar, our granulated sugar, and our flour. We'll just mix this all together. And then we are going to take our cooled butter and add it into this mixture. Then we'll gently stir this around really quick with a fork. And then I'm just going to use my hands to kind of finish off the mixing. We want it to be nice and clumpy. It's all combined and clumpy and ready to go on the apples. So we're going to take the apples, take our pan, with all of the juices and everything. Oh, I lost an apple. Flatten out. Then we're gonna take the topping and just pour it evenly over the apples as best as you can to make it as even as possible. And then here it is. Apples on the bottom, a little crumble on top. So this will be going into an oven that is 375 for 30 to 35 minutes. And while this is in the oven, we'll go ahead and get the frosting done for the cupcakes and finish off those by frosting them, and then we'll be able to eat those, eat this, and then we're done. All right, so frosting, it's actually very simple. It's just some butter and then some cream cheese, some powdered sugar, and then I've already halved it, but half of the caramel that we made earlier. So we're just gonna start by beating the butter until it's nice and creamy, and then we'll add the cream cheese, then we'll add some of the powdered sugar, add the caramel in, add the rest of the powdered sugar, and then that is done. So to the cream cheese and butter mixture, we're gonna add 1 cup of the powdered sugar that comes from the recipe. get that all combined in. And then we're gonna take half of the caramel and get that in there. With the caramel in here, we're just gonna take the remainder of either 2 to 3 cups of powdered sugar and just add a half cup in each little mix. Last time I made it, I ended up with 2.5 cups, so that's what I have here because I thought the sweetness level was good, so we're just gonna stick with that. All right, frosting is done and it is ready to be piped. So I'm just gonna put it into a piping bag and just start piping the frosting onto the cupcakes. Very simple, very easy. Alright, they're frosted, and then I've got all the other ones frosted back there. I ran out of frosting, but I knew that was gonna happen, but I was able to use up all the frosting, unlike what I had done the last time I made them. So with them done, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab one and stick it on my little plate, and I'll move these back. And then the crisp came out in the oven a little bit earlier, and it's been sitting, so it's not super, super hot, so I can now get into it. Cupcake and crisp, but can't have anything crispy like without ice cream. So I'm gonna add a little ice cream to the apples. Not too much. to taste. Now we're gonna do the cupcake first. I already know I like these, but the cupcake itself is good by itself, and the frosting with the caramel, it's definitely sweet, but with the cream cheese and everything, it's not as sweet as you think, but it's a really nice combination together with the pumpkin and the caramel. It all works really well together, so I like it. I'll finish that later. And for the apple, we want to make sure we have apple, nice little melty ice cream, and then focuses, and then the topping. Yummy. It's all the best parts of an apple pie, just without the crust, because I don't love crust in pies. So like for me, this is like the perfect apple pie without being like an apple pie. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Both of these recipes are really good for fall. Obviously, pumpkin is a very fall flavor, and apple can be a really nice fall flavor as well. And because they're both so easy, I thought they would be such a good idea for this video, and they turned out very well. They both taste very good, so I'm very happy with how they turned out today. If you guys want to try the recipe yourself, I will of course again have them in the description box below, and if you would like to try them out, and if you do, I'd love to hear how they go, or if you like them, enjoyed them, you can always drop a comment down below for those. But as for right now, with them all baked, and I have already eaten some, and it is the end of the day, the video is over. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.